Hi, I'm David and this is the Lunar Drive-In. This drive-in was a very early drive-in. It actually opened in May 1956, which is prior to television. So there were a few drive-ins in Melbourne that had opened by that time, but this was one of the very first to open in that initial boom period. It opened as an independent drive-in, so the landowner, the farmer that owned this very land, got together with a syndicate of drive-in operators and they decided to build this drive-in. It was very early days, so the structures were very rudimentary, but they've stood the test of time, and many of those buildings still stand today, albeit they've been refurbished and rebuilt several times. So this drive-in is almost the longest operating drive-in in Australia. My interest with drive-in theatres goes all the way back to about 1974. My parents decided to build an extension to our family home, which involved 2 upstairs bedrooms. My sister chose the bedroom with the view of the backyard, and I chose the bedroom with the view of the drive-in screen. And I always sort of thought that I would love to run a cinema or drive-in one day. My brother Matthew and myself had another business and we both worked as well. I worked in the cinema industry, he worked in the food industry, so we thought finally, after looking at lots of options, that this would be a good drive-in to reopen. When we first came to this drive-in was in the year 2000, and it was pretty much derelict. There were no screens, there were a couple of buildings here, and it was only used for a Sunday market. It had some of the expensive, boring things that cost a lot of money, like drainage in the ground, asphalt, fences, driveways, all those things that don't look like a drive-in, but actually cost a lot of money if you want to have to build them from scratch. So that was 2000. It took us about 12 months to get planning approval, and then took us about another 12 months to get it rebuilt and opened as a twin-screen drive-in. So we reopened it in September 2002. Each year we have about 400,000 customers through, so if you divide that by 50, you get quite a few thousand people per week. So we're cheap, we're affordable, which means that families and groups of people come to get the carload discount. So we actually have a lot of people in for the revenue that we make. Australia once had 330 drive-in theatres, and today there's fewer than 15. So whilst you can hardly say it's a growth business, the ones that have survived have done fairly well, particularly if they're near large population areas. Drive-ins have always been under threat. Drive-in theatres started in Australia within 18 months of television being introduced. So television had a great impact on the cinemas that existed in Australia, but during that time of doom and gloom, when many cinemas were closing in the 1960s and 70s, drive-ins were growing. So there was always growth in drive-ins. Since drive-ins have been running first release films, the threat of home entertainment has been greatly diminished, and we think as long as we're in fashion or on the fashion trend, which is having the latest movies that people want to see, keeping it affordable and making it an entertaining and enjoyable evening, the food, the ambience, just the way the venue looks, we think that drive-ins are not only here to stay but will continue to grow into the near future. I think it's the point of difference that people come to that. I'm a great believer that you can see movies in many different ways, but the drive-in is something special. It's a different way of seeing a movie altogether. It's affordable, there's food, you can do what you like in your car, and as I've said many times before, it's really where the 2 greatest icons of the 20th century come together, the motion picture and the automobile. Cars and movies at the drive-in, perfect.